call me the wanderer. Yeah, the wanderer. I roam around.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wanderers YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Ventura, and last episode we did a playthrough of Alien Isolation, if you're gonna go check that out. But today, we're getting back into the nitty-gritty of the old magic system. Like I said in a previous video before Alien Isolation, this fifth video, we had a particular amount of trouble in the audio section of this video that we're doing right now. However, we have found a nice medium. I will be splitting the old magic system into 6 smaller chunks. A video to discuss the energy source and all variations as recorded, and another to discuss all the abilities in full or relatively full detail. And well, that's what today's episode is going to be about. Today we will be discussing the nuances, origins, and creation and production of ki. And we got a bit of business to cover today, so sit back, relax, and let's get into today's topic. Ki is the starting point of the universe, and the fabric that makes all things possible probable. The smallest known particle in existence that exists and flows through all things in the multiverse and the 12 universes. Contrary to popular belief, it does not originate as an exclusively organic form of energy. It's just that with life energy, or Genki, it acts as a lightning rod for ki, to bring it in, and soul energy acts as its container to keep it restrained and properly used. Ki manipulation is the most common, and arguably, I might add, most powerful form of life energy manipulation in the universe. Mostly because it's not strictly limited to just the flesh. Since it runs through all things and is the universe itself, it allows you to mess and possibly manipulate the very building blocks of the universe. The potential abilities available to mortals are, in this case at least, just as vast as they are for the gods. To summarize what I just said, ki is basically the fabric of reality itself, and the thing that keeps it together as dictated and constructed by the gods themselves. And ki has a slight intelligence to it, not outright sapience or sentience like a living creature, but the ability to receive and follow instructions like a simple computer. And the more influence or control you have over ki manipulation, and the more ki you have overall in reserve, the more powerful your abilities will be, and the more you can use these abilities more often. As it exists in nature and in a vacuum, ki exists in 2 states, either as static ki or as roaming ki. Not necessarily different types or versions of ki, like the difference between god ki and regular ki, but different ways that ki is utilized in the universe or as it appears. Static ki, for example, is the construction of matter itself, the stitching in the world, usually only becoming separated by high levels of destructive power, like the spirit bomb that Goku used against Kid Buu, for example, or from techniques like the Hakai. And its cousin, free-roaming ki, is basically the leftovers and residual energy of the universe itself and of the Big Bang. And as the name implies, and unlike its cousin, it's not bound to one another on a metaphysical or submolecular level. Usually great swabs gravitate towards large planets with plenty of life. It's the most common state of ki, and makes up something called the universal ki pool. A large swirling mass of energy at the center of each and every universe that binds all ki particles together, both static and free-roaming. When a ki particle is used of its energy, or as a static cluster is destroyed, they will all eventually circle the drain, as it were, back towards the middle and become compressed down into a size no bigger than a pinhead. All that heat and pressure rejuvenates the ki particle back to its boundless energy state, till it eventually frees itself, eventually spiraling back out the opposite rotation to how it entered. Ki is basically constantly recycled from its previous users, or hosts, or planets that were made up of the stuff. Goku's, for example, billions of years ago could have been used by a serial killer, and he would have never have known. The reason why I bring this up is because Ki leaves an imprint of you in this world, a definable energy signature for each person that a competent user of Ki can sense and feel. And the more Ki you have with this signature, the easier you'll be to spot. And things like the soul, for instance, can affect that signature in interesting ways, either by polluting it with negative soul energy or purifying it with positive soul energy. Negatively charged Ki is the energy source behind the demon side of the Ki tree, and positively charged Ki particles is the source behind the angel side. The soul's imprint onto Ki will usually have a physical sign or indication, like differences in color of aura, each color usually pertaining to the inner mind and psyche of the user in some way or another. But in certain situations, this isn't always the case. Wanderer's, for example, is a noticeably sky blue, but his normal energy signature is actually green. It's just that the thing that makes Wanderer makes his Ki signature noticeably blue. And technically, there's no real difference between the two energy signatures, on a fundamental at least. However, the more negative energy signature allows the user to activate more twisted and corrupting powers in the Ki tree, and the more Zen or peaceful energy sources allow more Zen and peaceful abilities as a response. However, there are such things as different versions of Ki. In fact, in the God hierarchy, for example, there is something known colloquially as the Trinity. Ki is at the center of all things, but it does have an older brother, the very leftovers from the dawn of time itself, and the most powerfully, naturally occurring form of Ki in the universe and in nature, God Ki. As the name suggests, this Ki is ancient in origin, and of a much higher caliber, potency, and power than normal Ki, far outclassing it in all three categories, and only being usually accessed by beings of a higher standing with the universe, literal gods. To use an analogy to describe just how far the two are apart in power, one God Ki particle is enough to equivalent to several hundred Ki particles. First, again, it's the ancient ancestor to modern Ki, back when the universe was young and new and hot, a veritable soup of cocktails of pure energy, way more concentrated and abundant than today. Nowadays, there's only really one way to gain it, and its properties are through rituals to harness modern Ki till you receive the more potent brother of the two. And besides potency, there is another advantage that God Ki has over regular Ki. There's something I like to call the carrying capacity of Ki users. This is more of an observation and a theory than hard fact, but it's something I noticed while rewatching early Dragon Ball. Thinking about it from a logical perspective for a moment, back in the early days, before power levels got out of control, and let's be honest, before they even existed to begin with, let's be generous for a moment, and not really all that analytical for a moment, and say Kid Goku had, I don't know, a 10, but King Piccolo had, 200. Now in the show, Goku would stand absolutely no chance with that level of difference. However, looking into modern Dragon Ball, when we get into that sort of era, more specifically Z, that difference becomes negligible, less daunting. Why is that? Because I think, at least, again, my theory at least, is that Ki works on an exponential growth model. You see, in the early days of a fighter, they have to obtain very little Ki overall, but they have a lot more buck for their bang. The reason why a person with a power level of 10 is so unbelievably outmatched by one with a 200, for example, is because that's 20 times their own power. But the reason why someone with, let's just say, 100,000 can fight admirably against someone with, let's just say, 90,000 is because the difference between the two will eventually become negligible overall, the difference becoming barely even noticeable. But as we go higher and higher, that curve also gets higher as well, and we eventually will start to get less and less return, and will eventually hit a wall, or limits as Goku would call it, or hit the carrying capacity for the body. After a while, the snowball down the hill can't really get that much bigger in comparison. However, this is where God Ki differs. Instead of working off an exponential model, it has a linear model. Instead of 1 to 2 being half the previous number, now going from 1 to 2 isn't so bad, since, well, it's linear. It's only one above you, and that's not so bad. You have a steady and even track of power, and the difference between 100 and 110 means the same no matter how you look at it using this model. And theoretically, and unlike normal Ki, there is no real limit to how much your body can hold or grow. However, there is one last form of Ki, and it is arguably the most powerful of the Trinity, the most otherworldly, the most destructive.
Hakai.
Destruction energy, Hakai, pure, destructive, monolithic energy, a literal piece of the one true god of destruction, and omni-king of the multiverse, Zeno. Its potency and power are unrivaled in the entire universe, and possibly universes beyond. The tiniest of these particles, of this true divine energy source, will disintegrate an object with enough prolonged exposure. The gods of destruction, who are given the immense responsibility to wield this form of energy by Zeno himself, of course, must go through years of rigorous training under some of the most strongest beings in the multiverse. Even the likes of Goku and Vegeta and the natural-born world destroyer, Frieza, are only until recently hitting the heights necessary to even just survive the energy. And even then, it's an uphill battle. Now, I must make something clear before we press on any further, and make a clear distinction between the technique Hakai and the energy source Hakai. The technique of Hakai is a god-level Ki control technique that was developed to harness the full potential of Hakai energy, to get the maximum power of Hakai out and destroy anything within its admittedly short range. But the actual technique isn't exclusively just for Hakai energy. The basic principle is to just rip the fundamental forces off an object by using Ki until they disintegrate into nothingness. It's, however, and admittedly, way more effective when used with the energy source that it was designed to amplify. Also, I want to state this for the record of TOT. In our interpretation of the show, the open palm Hakai, basically where it's just letting off the full valve, like the one that Goku used against Zamasu, or the one that Beerus used against Zamasu, is completely destructive. Nothing in this world can survive it with enough exposure. And I mean nothing. Not even Wanderer's Spear, which is truly indestructible. It is a no-chance survival technique. And besides the other two of the Trinity, there are some man-made forms of ki, like for example, artificial ki. This form of energy is most known for its utilization by the Red Ribbon Army and their androids, most notably 17, 18, 19, and 20. This artificial form of energy has all the raw power of ki, but without the ability to interpret commands like normal ki, basically excluding it from the triangle of life and the old magic system. Meaning that to do any of the abilities that we see the androids normally do, the person usually has to be cybernized themselves, with tech capable of harnessing the energy and utilizing it properly. However, one massive advantage that it has over its fellow ki brethren is that it is completely undetectable to normal ki users, and that due to its nature as a man-made form of energy, with the proper tech in mind, an infinite energy machine can be made to replicate this energy source indefinitely, giving the user infinite stamina. Now, I could go into further detail about all the different variations and all the different types of ki. However, this video is already a lot longer than it should have been, and I think we have a lot of the basics covered for the prep for the next video in the ki series. So, for now at the very least, I'll leave it here, but there is more to come. But for those and ones in particular, I'll probably just give them their own video altogether. And well, that should be it. That's all the different versions and the background and history of what ki is and what it is capable of. Tell me, what did you think about today's video? And do you have any questions about the facts I laid out for the TOT series moving forward, as well as ZTOS? Leave any comments or criticisms that you have in the description below. As always, I'll be able to get to them when I can, and I always will. This will be a part of the official lore for the TOT and ZTOS series, and I will mention it frequently throughout both. So, be sure to keep this in the catalogs whenever you're looking forward to future TOT content. And well, with all that out of the way, I want to thank you for joining me on today's video. Don't forget to take time every day to stop and smell the roses. Till our next story, goodbye.